The text message that wasn't meant for me. That's what made it so perfectly, devastatingly honest. God, Alex is such a loser. Can you believe I married that? Dean makes me feel like a real woman for once. Alex couldn't satisfy a houseplant, let alone me. I stared at my wife Claire's phone screen, my coffee growing cold in my other hand. She'd left it on the kitchen counter while showering, and it had buzzed with what I assumed was a work notification. Instead, I found myself reading her conversation with her sister Tasha. A conversation that felt like a knife twisting in my chest. My name is Alex Delaney, and up until 30 seconds ago, I thought I had a decent marriage. Sure, Claire and I had our problems, but doesn't everyone? I'm 35, recently sold my small tech startup for a modest profit, and I genuinely believe my wife of 7 years loved me. Apparently, I was wrong about that last part. The shower was still running upstairs. Claire's phone buzzed again. Tasha, OMG, stop. But seriously, when are you going to leave him? You deserve so much better. Claire, soon. Dean says he's ready to make it official. I just need to figure out the money situation first. Alex might be pathetic, but he's not stupid with finances. My hands were shaking. Dean. I knew exactly who Dean was. Claire's personal trainer at that overpriced gym downtown. The guy with the perfect abs and the Instagram account full of motivational quotes. The guy Claire had been mentioning more and more frequently over the past few months. How long has this been going on? I whispered to the empty kitchen. I scrolled up through their conversation, my heart sinking with each exchange. 3 months of messages. 3 months of my wife calling me pathetic, boring, inadequate. 3 months of planning her exit strategy while I made her coffee every morning and asked about her day every evening. The water shut off upstairs. I quickly placed her phone back exactly where I'd found it and grabbed my laptop, pretending to work on some coding projects. My mind was racing, but I forced my expression into the same neutral mask I'd apparently been wearing while my marriage crumbled around me. Claire came downstairs 20 minutes later, looking radiant in her workout clothes. She was meeting Dean for a training session at 10. Morning, babe, she said, kissing my cheek with lips that had probably whispered sweet nothings to another man. You're up early. Couldn't sleep, I replied, which was becoming more true by the second. Big day planned? Just the usual, gym, then lunch with Tasha, then that work thing tonight. She grabbed her phone and checked it, smiling at something on the screen. Probably Dean telling her how amazing she looked or how he couldn't wait to hold her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my laptop across the room and demand answers. Instead, I nodded and took another sip of cold coffee. Sounds nice. Tell Tasha I said hi. Claire paused, studying my face for a moment. For a second, I thought she might confess everything. Instead, she shrugged and grabbed her gym bag. Will do. Love you, she said, already halfway out the door. Love you too, I replied to the empty room. The house felt different after she left. Bigger somehow and colder. I sat there for an hour, staring at my laptop screen without seeing anything. My mind kept replaying every interaction we'd had over the past few months, searching for signs I'd missed. There were plenty, I realized. The way she'd started dressing up for the gym, the new lingerie I'd found in her drawer, lingerie she'd never worn for me, the late nights working on social media campaigns, and the weekend team-building exercises that seemed to happen more and more frequently. I'd been an idiot. A blind, trusting idiot who believed his wife when she said she was working late or meeting friends. Meanwhile, she was building a whole new life with someone else, someone who made her feel like a real woman. My phone rang, startling me out of my spiral. It was my best friend Malik, probably calling to complain about his latest coding project. Hey man, what's up? I answered, trying to sound normal. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? I almost told him everything right then. Malik had been my friend since college, my best man at the wedding, the guy who'd helped me debug code at 3 a.m. more times than I could count. If anyone would understand, it would be him. But something held me back. Maybe it was pride, or maybe it was the crushing realization that everyone probably already knew. Claire and Tasha weren't exactly subtle people, and if they were discussing my inadequacies over text, they were probably sharing the gossip with their entire social circle. Yeah, everything's fine, I lied. Just busy with some new projects. Cool. Cool. Hey, Sarah and I are having people over this weekend if you and Claire want to come. Nothing fancy, just grilling and hanging out. Sarah was Malik's girlfriend of 2 years, a sweet woman who worked in marketing and made the best potato salad in Austin. She and Claire had never quite clicked, which now made perfect sense. Sarah was genuine and kind, while Claire was apparently a lying, cheating narcissist. "I'll check with Claire and let you know," I said. After we hung up, I realized I had no idea what to do next. Do you confront a cheating spouse immediately? Do you gather evidence first? Do you call a lawyer? I decided to start with evidence. If Claire was planning to leave me anyway, I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I opened my laptop and started researching private investigators in Austin. It felt surreal, like I was living someone else's life. The front door opened around noon. Claire was back from her training session, glowing with post-workout endorphins and probably post-sex satisfaction. "How was the gym?" I asked, not looking up from my screen. "Great. Dean really pushed me today. I'm definitely getting stronger." She grabbed a water bottle from the fridge and chugged half of it. "What are you working on?" "Just some freelance stuff. Nothing exciting." She nodded absently, already checking her phone again. I watched her face light up as she read whatever message had just come in. "I'm going to shower again, then head out to meet Tasha," she announced. "Sounds good. I'll probably be here when you get back." She paused at the bottom of the stairs. "Alex, are you sure you're okay? You seem distant today." The irony was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. She was asking if I was distant while actively planning to leave me for her personal trainer. "Just tired," I said. "You know how it is." She studied my face for another moment, then shrugged and headed upstairs. I listened to her footsteps on the hardwood floor, the sound of our bedroom door closing, the shower starting again. I opened a new browser tab and continued my research into private investigators. Rita Martinez came highly recommended and had a 5-star rating on Google. She was a former police detective turned private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. Her office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, which somehow made the whole thing feel more real. "So your wife is having an affair with her personal trainer," Rita said, reviewing the notes she'd taken during my explanation. She was in her 50s with graying hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "And you found out by accidentally seeing text messages to her sister." "That's right." I shifted in the uncomfortable plastic chair across from her desk. "I need to know how long it's been going on and what she's planning. Any joint assets I should know about? Bank accounts, property, investments?" "We own the house together, have a joint checking account, and some mutual funds. Nothing too complicated." I paused. "But I also have some separate accounts from when I sold my business last year." "She doesn't know about those." Rita raised an eyebrow. "How much are we talking about?" $5.2 million after taxes." She whistled low. "And your wife doesn't know about this money?" "The sale went through right around the time she started acting strange. I was going to surprise her with it. Maybe take a long vacation or buy a bigger house." I laughed bitterly. "Guess I dodged a bullet there." "I'd say so. If she knew about that money, she'd probably be pushing for a divorce instead of planning to leave you for the trainer." Rita leaned back in her chair. "My standard rate is $200 a day plus expenses. For a case like this, I'd estimate we'll need about a week to get you everything you need." "What exactly will you find?" "Evidence of the affair, timeline, locations, whether there are any other parties involved. I'll also do some background checking on the boyfriend, see if he's got any skeletons in his closet." She pulled out a contract and slid it across the desk. "I'll also document everything in a way that'll hold up in court if you decide to go that route." I signed the contract and wrote her a check for $1,000. Walking out of that strip mall, I felt like I'd crossed some kind of line. I was officially investigating my own wife. The next few days were surreal. Claire continued her routine of gym sessions, lunches with Tasha, and work events while I pretended everything was normal. I made coffee in the mornings, asked about her day in the evenings, and even helped her pick out an outfit for another one of her mysterious work functions. The hardest part was the physical contact. She'd kiss me goodbye, hug me hello, even initiate sex twice during that week. Each time I wondered if she was thinking about Dean, if she was comparing us, if she was just going through the motions until she could make her escape. Rita called me on Thursday morning while Claire was at work. "I've got some preliminary findings," she said. "Can you meet me at my office this afternoon?" I was there at 2 o'clock sharp. Rita had a manila folder thick with photographs and documents. "Your wife is definitely having an affair," she began, which wasn't exactly news. It's been going on for 4 months, not 3 like the text messages indicated. They meet at his apartment twice a week, sometimes at hotels when they want to be extra careful. She showed me photos of Claire entering a downtown hotel with Dean, both of them looking happy and relaxed. Other photos showed them at restaurants I'd never been to, holding hands across the table like teenagers. Here's where it gets interesting, Rita continued. Dean Miller isn't just a personal trainer. He's got a side business selling steroids to gym clients, and he owes money to some very unpleasant people. How much money? $30,000, give or take. He's been borrowing from Peter to pay Paul for months, but his creditors are getting impatient. Rita pulled out another set of photos, showing Dean meeting with a man who looked like he bench-pressed small cars for fun. Your wife has been helping him make payments. I felt my stomach drop. What do you mean helping him? She's been taking money from your joint account. Small amounts. Nothing you'd notice immediately, but it adds up. About $8,000 over the past 2 months. I stared at the bank records Rita had somehow obtained. She was right. There were cash withdrawals and transfers I'd never paid attention to, each one just small enough to fly under the radar. She's been stealing from me to pay her boyfriend's pill debts? That's what it looks like, and based on the conversations I've overheard, she's planning to ask you for a loan soon. Something about Dean wanting to expand his business. The room felt like it was spinning. It was one thing to discover your wife was cheating on you. It was another to realize she was also stealing from you to support her lover's criminal activities. There's more, Rita said gently. I followed them to a jewelry store yesterday. Dean was looking at engagement rings. She showed me photos of Claire and Dean at a high-end jewelry store downtown, Claire trying on rings while Dean talked to a salesperson. In one photo, Claire was holding up her hand to admire a diamond ring, beaming with joy I hadn't seen on her face in months. They're planning to get engaged, I said numbly. Looks like it. I also intercepted some text messages between your wife and her sister. They're planning to tell you everything this weekend. Your wife is going to ask for a divorce and claim she needs half of everything because she sacrificed her career for your marriage. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Claire worked part-time as a social media manager for a local restaurant chain. She made decent money, but calling it a career was generous. What do you recommend I do? Rita leaned forward. That depends on what you want. You could confront her with the evidence and try to work things out, though given what I've seen, I wouldn't recommend that approach. You could file for divorce first and catch her off guard. Or, no, she paused, studying my face. Or what? Or you could let her make the first move and be ready for it. You've got evidence of infidelity and theft. In Texas, that gives you significant leverage in divorce proceedings. Plus, you've got assets she doesn't know about, which means you're in a much stronger position than she realizes. I took the folder of evidence and drove home in a daze. Claire's car was in the driveway, which was unusual for a Thursday afternoon. I found her in the living room, pacing nervously while talking on the phone. I have to go, she said quickly when she saw me, ending the call. Hey babe, you're home early. Finished up my work for the day. Everything okay? You seem stressed. She forced a smile. Just work stuff. Nothing major. She sat down on the couch and patted the cushion next to her. Actually, can we talk? There's something I need to discuss with you. My heart started pounding. This was it. The conversation Rita had warned me about. Sure, I said, sitting down beside her. What's on your mind? Claire took a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about our marriage, our future, what we both want out of life. Okay, I said neutrally. I feel like we've grown apart, Alex. We want different things. We have different goals. I don't think either of us is happy anymore. I wanted to point out that I'd been perfectly happy until I discovered she was cheating on me, but I kept my mouth shut. What are you saying, Claire? She reached over and took my hand. I think we should consider a trial separation. Just for a few months, to figure out what we really want. A trial separation, I repeated. I know it sounds scary, but I think it might be good for both of us. We could date other people, explore who we are as individuals, see if we really belong together. The audacity was breathtaking. She was asking for permission to openly date her personal trainer while keeping me as a backup plan. Have you thought about the logistics? I asked. Who would move out, how we'd handle finances, that sort of thing. I could stay with Tasha for a while, she said quickly. As for money, I think we should keep sharing expenses until we figure things out. I might need help with some bills since I'd be paying rent at Tasha's place too. Of course she would. She needed access to our joint account to keep funding Dean's steroid business. This is a lot to process, I said. Can I think about it for a few days? Relief flooded her face. Of course. Take all the time you need. I just want us both to be happy, you know? That night, Claire went to bed early, claiming she had a headache. I stayed up late staring at the evidence Rita had gathered and planning my next move. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I decided to let Claire play her hand first. Over the next few days, I watched her work up the courage to ask for what she really wanted. A divorce with maximum financial benefit to her. She'd been dropping hints about needing space to grow and finding herself, all while continuing to meet Dean at hotels and withdraw money from our joint account. The confrontation came on Sunday morning. Claire had been unusually affectionate all weekend, which I now recognized as guilt-driven behavior. She made my favorite breakfast, suggested we watch a movie together, and even initiated Zek's Saturday night. It was like she was trying to ease her own conscience before dropping the bomb. Alex, she said over coffee and pancakes, I've been thinking more about what we discussed, about this separation. Yeah, me too. I think I'm ready to move forward with it. I've already talked to Tasha about staying with her, and I found a lawyer who can help us work out the details amicably. I nearly choked on my coffee. She'd already consulted a lawyer. That was fast, I said. I just want to make sure we do this right, you know? No drama, no fighting, just two adults making a mature decision. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I really think this is best for both of us. What kind of arrangement were you thinking? Claire's eyes lit up. This was the part she'd been rehearsing. Well, since we've been married for 7 years and I have been supporting your career by managing the household and everything, I think a 50-50 split would be fair. The house, the bank accounts, investments, all of it. I nodded thoughtfully. That seems reasonable. She looked surprised by how easily I was taking it. Really? You're not upset? Claire, if you're not happy, then I want you to be happy. Life's too short to stay in a marriage that isn't working. The relief on her face was almost comical. She'd probably been preparing for tears, arguments, begging. Instead, I was making it easy for her. There is one thing, though, she continued. I might need some additional support for a few months while I get back on my feet. Maybe we could work out some kind of temporary alimony arrangement? How much were you thinking? Maybe $3,000 a month? Just until I can find a better job and get settled. $3,000 a month plus half of our assets, plus continued access to fund her boyfriend's pill debts. It was a comprehensive plan. Let me ask you something, I said, setting down my coffee cup. Are you seeing someone else? The question hung in the air like a live wire. Claire's face went through several expressions: surprise, guilt, calculation, and finally defiance. Why would you ask that? Just curious. It would make sense, actually. This whole finding yourself thing feels like there might be someone specific you want to find yourself with. She straightened in her chair. Alex, I think we should focus on our own relationship instead of making accusations. So that's a yes. It's not what you think. What do I think, Claire? She sighed dramatically. Fine, yes, I've met someone, but it's not why I want the separation. I've been unhappy for a long time, and meeting Dean just made me realize what I've been missing. Dean. She'd actually said his name. What have you been missing? I asked. Passion, excitement. Someone who makes me feel alive. She was warming to her theme now, probably repeating things she'd said to Tasha and her friends. You're a good man, Alex, but we don't have that spark anymore. Dean makes me feel like a woman again. How long has this been going on? A few months, but Alex, I swear it didn't start as an affair. We just connected and I realized what was missing in our marriage. I almost admired her ability to rewrite history. In her version, she hadn't been sneaking around and lying for months. She'd simply connected with someone and discovered her marriage was lacking. Does Dean know you're married? Of course he does. He feels terrible about the situation, but we can't help how we feel. I'm sure he does feel terrible, I said dryly, especially when you're helping him pay off his debts. Claire's face went white. What are you talking about? The $8,000 you've taken from our joint account over the past 2 months. The cash withdrawals, the transfers. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Those were for personal expenses. Personal expenses like Dean's gambling debts? Or was it the steroid business? She stood up abruptly, knocking over her coffee cup. Have you been spying on me? I've been protecting myself, which, given the circumstances, seems like a smart move. You hired someone to follow me. It wasn't a question. I hired someone to find out the truth. And the truth is that you've been lying to me for months, stealing money from our joint account, and planning to take me for everything I'm worth in a divorce. Claire's mask was completely off now. The sweet, apologetic wife was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. You fool! You've been sitting here pretending to be understanding while having me investigated like some kind of criminal. Are you a criminal, Claire? Because taking money from our joint account to pay your boyfriend's illegal debts sounds pretty criminal to me. Those weren't illegal debts. So you admit you were taking our money to help Dean? She realized her mistake immediately, but it was too late. It wasn't like that. He needed help, and I wanted to help him. We're going to be together, Alex. We're in love. You're in love with a steroid dealer who owes $30,000 to people who break kneecaps for a living. Dean is not a pill dealer. He's a personal trainer who sometimes helps people with supplements. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of Rita's photos. Dean handing a bag to a gym client in exchange for cash. Supplements, I said. Right. Claire stared at the photo, her face cycling through emotions. You really did hire someone to spy on me. I hired someone to investigate my wife who was acting suspicious and stealing money from our joint account. Turns out my instincts were right. I want a divorce, she said, her voice shaking with rage. I know you do. You've wanted one for months. You just wanted to make sure you could maximize your payout first. I deserve half of everything. I've been your wife for 7 years. You've been my wife for 7 years and Dean's girlfriend for 4 months. That's an interesting overlap. She grabbed her purse from the counter. I'm leaving. I'll have my lawyer contact you. Claire, wait. She turned back, hope flickering in her eyes. Maybe she thought I was going to beg her to stay or apologize for investigating her. When you talk to your lawyer, I said, make sure you mention the infidelity and the theft. It'll save everyone time. She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I sat in the sudden silence of my kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of our last breakfast together. The coffee cup she'd knocked over was still dripping onto the floor, mixing with what remained of the marriage I'd thought was worth fighting for. My phone buzzed on with a text from Rita. How did it go? She's gone, I texted back. What's next? Now we get ready for war. I looked around the house. Claire and I had bought together, decorated together, lived in together for 5 years. By tomorrow, it would just be my house. By next week, I'd probably never see her again except in a lawyer's office. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I smiled. Claire's lawyer was a shark named Patricia Hendricks, who specialized in high-asset divorces. She was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive suit, cold eyes, and a reputation for leaving ex-husbands financially devastated. Claire had done her homework. What Claire hadn't done was her math. The first settlement offer arrived 3 days after she moved out. Patricia was demanding half of all marital assets, including the house, plus $3,000 a month in spousal support for 5 years, plus attorney fees. The total package would have cost me about $400,000, which was essentially everything I had in our joint accounts. Everything Claire knew about anyway. I forwarded the offer to my own attorney, Marcus Webb, who'd handled my business sale the year before. Marcus was the opposite of Patricia. Quiet, methodical, and absolutely ruthless when he needed to be. She's overplaying her hand, Marcus said during our meeting. Texas is a community property state, but infidelity can affect the division of assets. Plus, the theft from your joint account gives us leverage. What kind of leverage? The kind that makes people settle quickly and quietly. He leaned back in his chair. But first, let's talk about those separate accounts you mentioned, the ones from your business sale. I'd been dreading this conversation, but I knew it was necessary. $5.2 million in accounts I opened after the sale. Claire doesn't know about them. Marcus whistled. And the sale happened when? About 6 months ago, right around the time Claire started acting strange. Perfect timing. Since the accounts were opened with post-marital income, they're technically community property, but given the circumstances, he smiled. Let's just say we have options. Over the next week, Marcus worked his magic. He responded to Patricia's settlement demand with our own offer. Claire could have her personal belongings and $10,000 to help with her transition. In exchange, she would waive all claims to marital property and spousal support. Patricia's response was predictably outraged. She threatened to take us to court, to drag out the proceedings, to make my life miserable. She clearly expected me to cave under pressure. Instead, Marcus sent her Rita's investigation file, the photos of Claire and Dean at hotels, the bank records showing the unauthorized withdrawals, the evidence of Dean's steroid business and Claire's involvement in funding it. Most damaging of all, the recorded phone conversations Rita had captured between Claire and Tasha, where Claire bragged about her plan to take Alex for everything he's worth. Patricia called Marcus within an hour of receiving the file. "Your client is willing to discuss terms," Marcus told me after hanging up. The negotiation took another week. In the end, Claire agreed to a $50,000 settlement and no spousal support in exchange for me not pressing charges for theft or exposing her affair publicly. She kept her car, her personal belongings, and her dignity. I kept everything else. But the divorce was just the beginning of my revenge. While Marcus was handling the legal aspects, I was working on something more personal. Rita had continued her surveillance of Claire and Dean, documenting their new life together. Claire had moved in with Dean immediately after leaving me, and they were living in his overpriced downtown apartment, playing house with my stolen money. The problem was, Dean's creditors didn't care about his new living arrangements. They wanted their money, and they were getting impatient. That's where I came in. Using information Rita had gathered, I contacted Dean's primary creditor, a charming gentleman named Tommy, who ran an underground gambling operation out of a bar on the east side. Tommy was very interested to learn that Dean's new girlfriend had been stealing money from her husband to make payments. "That's fraud," Tommy explained to me over the phone. "I don't like doing business with people who commit fraud. Makes me nervous about getting paid." "I can understand that concern," I replied. "Maybe I should have a conversation with this Dean fellow about finding more reliable income sources." "That sounds like a reasonable business decision." Tommy's conversation with Dean happened 3 days later. Rita captured it on video. Dean being escorted out of his gym by 2 large men who were explaining the importance of paying debts on time. By the end of the week, Dean had been fired from his job and evicted from his apartment. Claire, suddenly homeless and unemployed, her boss had also seen Rita's evidence and decided he didn't want an employee who stole money, was forced to move back in with Tasha. The 2 sisters who had spent months plotting my downfall were now sharing a 1-bedroom apartment and splitting the rent. But I wasn't done yet. The final piece of my revenge was the most satisfying. Claire had always been obsessed with her social media presence, carefully curating an image of success and happiness. Her Instagram account was full of photos from expensive restaurants, luxury vacations, and designer clothes, all funded by money she'd stolen from me. Rita had been documenting Claire's spending habits for months, and we'd built a comprehensive timeline of her theft. Every cash withdrawal corresponded to a new purchase. Every transfer matched up with an expensive dinner or shopping trip. I created a detailed presentation showing Claire's crimes, complete with bank records, photos, and timestamps. Then I sent it to everyone in her social circle, her coworkers, her gym friends, her college sorority sisters, even her distant relatives. The email was simple. "I thought you should know who you've been supporting." The response was immediate and devastating. Claire's carefully constructed social media presence collapsed overnight as friends and family realized they'd been watching her spend stolen money. Comments on her photos turned from supportive to accusatory. People started sharing the evidence, adding their own commentary about her behavior. Within 48 hours, Claire had deleted all her social media accounts. But the damage was done. In a city like Austin, where everyone knows everyone, reputation matters. Claire discovered that her professional network had evaporated along with her social media presence. Job interviews were mysteriously canceled. Freelance clients stopped returning her calls. Meanwhile, I was thriving. The stress of the failing marriage was gone, replaced by the satisfaction of a plan perfectly executed. I'd kept my money, my house, and my dignity, while Claire lost everything she'd tried to steal from me. The final confirmation of my success came 6 months after the divorce was finalized. Rita called me with an update on Claire and Dean's situation. "They broke up last week," she reported. Apparently, Dean blamed Claire for his problems with Tommy, and Claire blamed Dean for getting her involved in his illegal business. They had a screaming match in Tasha's apartment complex that the neighbors are still talking about. Where are they now? Dean moved back in with his mother in Dallas. Claire is still with Tasha, working part-time at a coffee shop downtown. Word is she's been asking mutual friends if you'd be willing to talk to her. I laughed. What could we possibly have to talk about? Apparently, she wants to apologize. Maybe try to work things out. The audacity was breathtaking. After months of lying, cheating, and stealing, Claire thought she could apologize her way back into my life and my bank account. What should I tell her if she contacts me directly? Rita asked. Tell her I'm busy, I said. Tell her I'm dating someone new, someone who doesn't steal money or cheat with personal trainers. Tell her I'm happier than I've ever been. All of which was true. I'd started dating Emily, a marketing executive I'd met through work. She was smart, honest, and had her own successful career. Most importantly, she thought Claire's behavior was as pathetic as I did. Will do, Rita said. Anything else you need from me? Actually, yes. I want you to keep monitoring the situation for a few more months, just to make sure Claire doesn't try anything stupid. Like what? Like trying to get revenge of her own. She's lost everything, her marriage, her boyfriend, her money, her reputation. People in that situation sometimes make desperate choices. Rita agreed to continue the surveillance, though it turned out to be unnecessary. Claire had learned her lesson. She kept her head down, worked her coffee shop job, and avoided any contact with me or our mutual friends. As for me, I'd learned something valuable about myself. I wasn't the passive, trusting husband Claire had thought she could manipulate and discard. When pushed, I could be just as ruthless as anyone. The difference was, I was better at it. 6 months later, Emily and I moved in together. A year after that, we got married in a small ceremony attended by people who actually cared about us. My new wife was everything Claire had pretended to be: loyal, honest, and genuinely happy with the life we were building together. Sometimes I wondered if Claire ever thought about the choices that had led to her downfall. If she'd been honest about her unhappiness, if she'd asked for a divorce without the lies and theft, she might have walked away with a reasonable settlement and her dignity intact. Instead, she'd chosen deception, betrayal, and greed. She'd underestimated her opponent and overplayed her hand. In the end, she got exactly what she deserved: